Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Welcome back to the Get Published podcast. My name is Paul Brodie, and I am proud to serve as your host. And today we have another amazing guest, and that is Ted Demopoulos. And hopefully I pronounced the name correctly, Ted. If not, call me out on it. But you're the author of several books, including one coming up, and in particular about InfoSec Rockstar, which we actually had the privilege to help make. I don't want to say create the Summit version, but to help you with the Summit version of the InfoSec branding. So Ted, welcome to the Summit. We're thrilled to have you on. And of course, I said Summit, I mean podcast interview.
Thanks, Paul. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, Ted, we're thrilled to have you. Are you ready to begin?
I am.
All right. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Start writing and keep writing. For somebody that has already started, keep writing. What I'm doing right now is I'm trying to write 42 minutes a day. Now that's a random number I picked because it works for me. Just trying to write something every day. I find mornings work best for me, but sometimes I'll be writing at 2 a.m. And some of the things I write are garbage and I throw them away. But a lot of what I write is either good or becomes good. It's just that keeping at it. That's what works for me.
So 42 minutes. I know you said that's a random thing, but why did you choose that time?
You know, I've been doing a lot of webcasts for my audience and for some of my clients, and they tend to be an hour. And it's hard for me to keep anything to an hour. But on the other side, it's hard for someone to focus for an entire hour. So I went with 42 minutes for webcasts with 18 minutes for questions, whether they're questions or not. And people are much easier to say, I can do something for 42 minutes than an hour. And so, for example, right before we started speaking, I was like, what am I going to do? I got some time. I got less than an hour. I can write for 42 minutes now. Right? So right before we started talking, I just finished my 42 minutes. If I had said an hour, which is easy, I would have said, oh, I don't have quite enough time here. And I thought, well, I could write half an hour. I just found that less than an hour worked for me.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about the publishing process? So the editing, the proofing, getting the book done, getting to that point. What do you feel is the hardest part about that process?
Certainly the finishing is really hard, but I'm going to say what's even harder is committing to start. And so with my first book, like 14 years ago or so, I said, I'm going to write a book. And it really didn't do anything until I committed by telling people. I told all my friends and colleagues, I'm writing a book. And they're like, what's the book on? It's like, I don't know yet, but I'm going to start writing now. It was just making that commitment. And for me, making it public. And once I say I'm going to do something and people have heard it, I'm more likely to actually do it.
Yeah, it's like the accountability piece. I have this thing going with my bike where we've just passed the year mark where I've exercised every day for a year, and I post about this constantly on social media. I talk about it with my list, and it's just that accountability piece where I'm going, okay, maybe I'm a little tired today. Maybe I don't feel like doing it, but there's all these accountability pieces in it. And if I don't do it, I'm going to look like a chump.
I understand that perfectly. Now, I'm not built like a runner. I'm a big guy. I'm wide. I have short legs. But I've been telling people for my 60th birthday, which is coming up, I'm going to run an ultra marathon. And so everyone knows I'm going to try to run 50K. I didn't say I'm going to finish it, but hopefully I will. And so I've been posting on social media and filling in people on my email list saying, well, I just did my 16-mile run. That's one of the long runs I have to do as part of getting ready. And I find people are asking me, and whether I finish that or not, it's not like a book where writing a book, the book was the goal. Here, the goal is fitness, right? And just that accountability, as you said. And I find I'm also motivating other people to exercise, as well as motivating other people to write.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the power of habits. Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launches that has worked well.
I'll tell you what's worked real well for me. In my space, social media, specifically Twitter, is enormous. Among computer security people, I mean, Twitter is just the platform. And so I've been tweeting a lot. And two things specifically I've done a lot is I've given away lots of copies of my book to all kinds of people and taken pictures with them and tweeted that out. I've probably done that a couple hundred times, and people usually retweet it. And some of them are, people with enormous followings. Also, I did a free plus shipping and handling offer. Like, you can have my book. I bought 1,000 copies. I'm handing them out. Just pay for the shipping and handling. And that's mostly promoted via Twitter. Now, I use Facebook and LinkedIn and so forth, but in my space, Twitter just works.
Now, to be clear, you're talking about regular social media posts, not about advertising per se, but
Right.
just sharing it with your audience, correct?
Exactly. I have experimented a little bit with advertising on Twitter and Facebook, but it's been, way over 90% just non-promoted posts and tweets.
Well, let's talk about your favorite book. So what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
My favorite book, and I've read it several times, is Lynchpin by Seth Godin. And I'll tell you, my last book, I would not have written, I would not have pursued that topic if it hadn't been for Lynchpin. Seth Godin talks about creating art, and art is any expression that you have. It could be a book, it could be a piece of software, it could be a painting, and just giving it to people as a gift. And I had these thoughts which are not common among technical people, particularly in computer security, that, hey, look, there's other skills that are equally important than the core technical skills, like communications and leadership and getting along with people and finishing things and getting out of your own way. And a lot of people didn't want to hear that. Right? Technical people like to be technical, just like lawyers like to do law and so forth. And I got so motivated by reading Lynchpin. It was like, I got this inside of me. I got to get this out. How am I going to form this idea? How am I going to get feedback? And I had publishers. I have friends and publishers that tried to talk me out of writing my last book. One friend, he was like, well, we're certainly not going to publish it, but don't do it. It's a bad idea. You don't want your name attached to this. But from Seth Godin's Lynchpin, he was just basically, it's like, you got this in you, you want to get it out, you think it's going to help people, do it.
That is my exact same philosophy, and I've never heard of that book before. I've just written it down. So part of my daily workouts, I'm always reading, and I've read like 9 books already this year. So I'm adding this one to the list because that's the main thing. If you've got something to share, just do it. Just like the shoe, right? Just like Nike. Just do it. Take those steps. Get that book out there, because what I refer to these type of situations are side effects, right? You're doing everything, you're getting the information out there, you're sharing it with the world, and then when people connect to it, the side effects are the business opportunities that come with that. The opportunities to work together, to bring them on as clients. It works. So if you've got a story to share, get it out there and just get it done.
I agree, absolutely.
Well, for our final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
Okay, it's related to it. It's actually by Eisenhower. It's, plans are worthless, but planning is everything. And there's a very similar quote by Churchill as well, where he said, plans are of little importance, but planning is essential. And I've historically not been a big planner. I've just kind of winged it with everything, and things have gone okay. I've really learned the power of planning because it helps me see opportunities I wouldn't see otherwise. However, you've got to realize it's the planning process that's important. The plan itself, I had one guy in my summit who, great planner. He started working for himself. He had 1 week plan, 1 month plan, 6 month plan, 5 year plan. I asked him about it. He just laughed. He said, my plan lasted for maybe a week. He said, because you don't know what kind of opportunities you're going to see. And he said the planning process, though, was so valuable. It's so good that I did that. Even though the plans themselves, it's like they didn't work out the way that I thought. They worked out better in his case, and they often do.
Well, I love that because I'm a big fan of systems and frameworks, as you know. But it's one of those things where you set everything up as projected. You have a projected list of things you want to get done, projected timelines, but they always change. And that's the biggest thing, is just adjusting to that. But you still have the framework, you still have the systems in place for the next year. It's just making those adjustments as those opportunities come up.
I'm going to use that word a lot more with my planning. Projected, right? Projected ending date, projected follow on, projected plan. And I think I'm going to use that actually today in some emails to some people that I have some plans with. It's projected we'll do this fall. Projected we'll start in a couple of weeks. I think that's going to work well.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where you're making it clear the expectation, but hey, this is projecting things out. It's like with the book you're working on, like, hey, what is your projected timeline coming forward? And if it changes, it changes. But the point is you've developed a plan and you're doing your best to go through it. And that framework just makes all the difference.
Absolutely.
Well, Ted, I want to thank you for being on our podcast today. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Well, since no one can spell Demopoulos, I have the URL teddemop.com, teddemop.com, which is as much as most people can spell.
Well, Ted, thank you once again for being a part of our show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thanks, Paul. My pleasure.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.